Niye bozgun?
Tamam. Buraya mı diyet ha?
Yan şekilde.
Kıslama diyet siz diye.
Başlar bitti adam. Garbage is arriving. What is it?
Ya koşulda zapsın biter kamera. O zaman звук geçelim ki de.
Hurmatli o'qituvchilar, mikrofonlaringizni o'chirsangiz, admin gapiradi.
Yaxshi tushunarli.
उसकी प्लानशीट है मुझे मजा क्या आता है मुझे प्लानशीट में मौंगे क्या नहीं हो प्लानशीट है सिर्फ अंदर की बस तो बढ़िया है कि जैसे Bakın şunu bu alayım. Şunu yamuk bu. Yani.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We'll just wait a few more minutes before we start so that people can connect. We're still a few minutes early, so I'll tune back in a couple of minutes.
Okay. Ready? And from International Islamic Academy of Uzbekistan.
Good morning again, just so that people are not surprised why this meeting is so quiet. We'll just wait a couple more minutes before we start with the webinar so that people can still connect. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, hello everyone. I think we can start now. First of all, hello or good afternoon from where you are. Here it's still morning, 11:30 Brussels time. Welcome to this webinar on opportunities for the mobility and training of students and researchers in Uzbekistan. A special thank you first to the Ministry of Higher and Secondary Specialized Education of Uzbekistan, and to the National Erasmus Plus office in Uzbekistan for taking the initiative of organizing this webinar. It's the very first, actually, for us to do this sort of webinar for Uzbekistan. My name is Marlene. I work for the European Commission, and I'll be moderating this event today. So the webinar will last around 2 hours, and at the end of it, you should hopefully have a clearer idea of the existing funding opportunities by the European Union to support students and researchers in Uzbekistan, or who want to move between Europe and Uzbekistan. So as you might know already, or you will know hopefully in 2 hours from now, this can happen mostly through 2 programs, EU programs that we have, which are the Erasmus Plus program, which is more for students and staff, and then the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions under the Horizon 2020 program, which are more for researchers at any stage of their careers. But our speakers will tell you more about that in a minute. Before I give the floor to our host and first speaker, Mr. Ergashev, I just want to outline maybe some housekeeping rules to make sure that this meeting works okay. First of all, I will ask you all to keep your microphones muted during the whole event. We are around 100 participants today, so this will ensure that the meeting goes smoothly. Should you have questions, and I hope you will have questions, please write them in the chat box. We will collect them and either address them after the interventions or at the end of the event, because we have foreseen actually a little Q&A session. So please don't hesitate to write your questions in the chat box. And also for your information, the presentations that we're going to use today and other material will be shared with you after the event. So don't worry, you don't have to take print screens or to take pictures of your screen. You will receive everything after the event. And now I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Ergashev, whom some of you might already know because he has been heading the Department of International Relations of the Ministry of Higher and Specialized Education in Uzbekistan for more than 15 years. So that's quite a career. And he's leading the National Network of International Relations Department of Uzbek universities. And I would say it's therefore considered as your main information point for anything internationalization related. So, Mr. Ergashev, I hope you are with us already. And if so, the floor is yours. I'm not sure if it's only me, but I can't hear you. Mr. Ergashev, are you with us? Could somebody confirm if he is connected and with us? Thank you.
Dear Merlin, it's Kudrat Khan speaking. He couldn't manage to connect yet. Could you please give the floor to another speaker? As soon as
no problem.
Then we can continue. Thank you.
I hope that Mrs. Claire Morel from the European Commission is already online and ready to jump in. So Mrs. Claire Morel is actually, she's my boss. She's the head of unit of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie unit at the European Commission. And she's been working on international cooperation, including through Erasmus Plus mostly, but now also Marie Skłodowska-Curie for a very long time. And I know she's very familiar with Uzbekistan and Central Asia as a whole. So Claire, if you're with us, please, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very well.
Я скажу несколько слов на русском языке, потом перейду на английский, потому что это рабочий язык нашего семинара. Уважаемые участники, W moim krótkim wstąpieniu k webinaru ja popytаюсь убедить was w podacie zajawki na grant Marii Skłodowskiej-Curie. Jeśli u was jest opyt w Erasmus, to следующим waszym szagom должен być grant Marii Skłodowskiej-Curie. Чуть позже вы сможете послушать двух получателей такого гранта, которые поделятся своим опытом и тем, как это помогло им в профессиональной карьере. Я надеюсь, что у них получится убедить вас в том, что данная программа Марии Скłodowskiej-Curie предлагает много разных возможностей на любом этапе вашей научной карьеры. Я бы хотела подчеркнуть, что эта программа предлагает много разных возможностей. Имеются, например, возможности для тех, кто только планирует заняться наукой и поступить в докторантуру. Есть тоже возможности для тех, кто уже имеет докторскую степень и хотел бы продолжить исследования на основе гранта, а также для тех, кто заинтересован в обменной программе в рамках международного исследовательского проекта. Вы увидите, что программа Марии Скłodowskiej-Curie финансирует все эти виды проектов в любой сфере науки. На данный момент Узбекистан, к сожалению, недостаточно представлен в программе, и мы надеемся, что сегодняшняя сессия повысит интерес к ней и количество успешных заявок Узбекистана. I will now switch to English. And I will start with a very broad presentation of the Marie Skłodowskiej-Curie action. In short, we will call them MSCA. The objective of today's seminar is not to give you very detailed information about the program. It's just to give you, let's say, to raise interest for the program and hope that you will be interested to apply in the future. You will hear in particular about a call which is open. It's a call for postdoctoral candidates. It's the last call that we have this year, but as of next year, there will be many different calls for all the different actions of the program. So for those who do not know what the Marie Skłodowskiej-Curie action is, we can say in a way that it's a sort of continuation of the Erasmus program. I know that a lot of you already know the Erasmus Plus program. You have maybe participated in the credit mobility action to go to Europe as a student and as staff to do part of your studies in a European university. You might have already participated in a capacity building project. So it means that you already have experience with European calls for proposals. So the MSCA, the Marie Skłodowskiej-Curie action, is part of another European program, which is called Horizon 2020. And as of next year, the next generation of programs will start, and the new program will be called Horizon Europe. And it's the program, a European program for research and innovation. And the Marie Skłodowskiej-Curie action are part of the what we call excellence pillar of that program. Next. Valerio. Yeah, thanks. So a few words about the key features of the program. The MSCA offers possibilities to researchers at all stages of their career, and not only at researchers, but also to institutions, and not only to universities, but it also offers possibilities for other types of organizations to be involved, for research organizations, for enterprises, for small enterprises as well, for non-governmental organizations, hospitals, etc. It's a program that concentrates on the training and the career development of researchers by offering career development opportunities through excellent doctorate, through a fellowship scheme for postdoctoral candidates, and also possibilities to be involved in collaborative projects. It's open, it's a program that is open to researchers from all over the world. So it's fully open to researchers from Uzbekistan, and we have a few Uzbek researchers who are already involved in the program, but only a very small number, unfortunately, at this stage. And it's a program that supports the intersectorial cooperation between the academic sector and the non-academic sector. It promotes also very much the interdisciplinary cooperation. You will hear as well that the program offers quite interesting, attractive working conditions for researchers involved in the program. So it offers them employment contracts, social benefits. So the universities or other organizations involved in it have to offer to their researchers as well access to an employment benefit and all sorts of social benefits and family allowance. As I said, it's a program which is open to researchers at all stages of their career. So it starts with the doctoral candidates, so young people without any experience in research to very experienced researchers. It's what we call a bottom-up program, which means that it covers all fields of research. There is no predefined domain. And we promote very much the cooperation with the non-academic sector. Next. So for the time being, the MSCA offers 4 types of actions. As I said, as of next year, we will move to a new phase of the program, but the actions that you see now will continue to be funded in the future program. Today, we will concentrate on the second action that you see, the IF, individual fellowship, because we currently have an open call. But as of next year, there will be new calls for all these actions. So it means that it gives you time to prepare your application, to think about it and start maybe gathering partners around you. The first type of actions are what we call ITN, Innovative Training Networks. Those are international networks of doctoral networks involving universities, as I said, research centers, but also other types of organizations, enterprises. So it's a call that is aiming at these organizations. Once they receive funding, they develop international doctoral programs to which then students can apply. So it means that if a student is interested in applying for a Marie Skłodowska-Curie doctoral program, they need to apply directly to those organizations offering these doctoral programs. Later on, during this morning's presentation, you will hear about an alumni who has successfully applied to an MSCA doctoral program, and she will explain us, she will share with us her experience. As of September, new Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action, ITN, will be launched, and it means that there will be new possibilities for students to apply for these doctorates. Then the second type of action are individual fellowships for postdoctoral researchers, so for already people with quite some experience in research, and my colleague Sami Betish will present you the current call, which is currently open. Then we will have the third types of action is what we call RISE, Research and Innovation Staff Exchange. It's quite a flexible action. It's the most international action, in fact, and it's the action where we have the highest participation from Uzbekistan. It's an exchange program for researchers who want to work together on a research project. It's open not only to researchers, but also to technical staff, administrative staff, management staff working on such projects. And the fourth type of action are co-funded programs, where the European Union co-funds with universities, with national programs, with regional or international programs. It co-funds doctoral programs or fellowship schemes for postdoctoral candidates, for postdoctoral researchers. Next one. So now I'll give you, this slide shows you the current participation, the current level of participation of Uzbekistan in the MSCA. As you can see, it's quite low. We only have, since 2014, 2 postdoctoral researchers involved in the individual fellowships. We have 2 doctoral candidates involved in the innovative training networks, so the doctorates, but we have a much higher number of organizations and researchers involved in RISE. This is the action for staff exchanges that I mentioned earlier, that is the most internationally open. And you see as well on these slides the names of the institutions involved in these programs, in case you want to contact them and maybe share their experience. Next. So as I mentioned earlier, we are coming to a new phase of the MSCA next year, but we will have the same actions. They will have different names, but they will continue to be the same. So we will continue to have international doctoral networks, so doctoral programs, including industrial doctoral programs and joint doctoral programs. We will continue to have the postdoctoral fellowships, the action that will be presented to you in more detail today. We will continue to have a staff exchange program, so for all types of staff involved in research. We will continue to have co-funded projects, and we also have a smaller actions, which is called MSc and Citizens, and funds, notably the European Researchers' Night, which is the biggest science event taking place in Europe, usually at the end of September. With the new phase of the program, we want to have simpler rules, easier to access, and we will put a lot of emphasis on exposure beyond academia, because researchers do not always remain in universities. They do not always remain within academia, and we need to equip them with skills that are needed for the non-academic world. Yes, next one. So here, my colleague Valerio, who is online, will show you how, if you are a student and you are interested to join an ITN, so a doctoral network, a doctoral program, it will show you how to find find these positions, because they are advertised on a site which is called Euraccess. Valerio, can you explain? Can you go maybe open the website and show to potentially interested students where they can find the positions advertised by the innovative training networks?
Yes, thank you very much, Claire. Good morning, everyone. So basically from the main website of Euraccess, let's see if, okay, let's do this here. Okay, so from the main page, you will be here. So you go to jobs and funding, and
we don't see it. We don't see your, yes, the screen.
Okay, sorry. Resume. Okay, can you see it now?
No.
Okay, just technical problems. Okay, here. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so basically from the I was saying from the main page, like the on page of the Euraccess website, you have to go to jobs and funding and then click on search for job offers. So I was, Claire was mentioning, this is a global website. So not only the MSCA positions for doctoral or postdoctoral programs are included. So it's wider in its in the jobs offered. But if you are interested in the MSCA opportunities, you can click on European Research Program and tick the box linked with Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions and do the search. If you want to search, if you want to apply also like other filters, you can do the researcher profile, so you can see which position best suit your stage of career. So if you are a first stage researcher, you will click on this box and do the search, and you will see all the opportunities related to MSCA and that suit to the first stage of career of researchers. So then if you want to look for one, you can just click on read more and it will redirect to another page where you can apply. Basically, at this stage, the European Commission and the MSCA unit is not involved in the selection. So basically you will find all the information to apply directly through the company or the university. I think that it's pretty much all. If you have any other question, we can take it and answer to it in the Q&A session at the very end of this webinar. So Claire, back to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Valerio. Today, we are not going to talk about the innovative training network, so the doctoral programs, but Valerio has just showed you where you can find information on all the positions which are being advertised by the innovative training networks that have already been selected. And as of this September, a new generation of innovative training networks will be launched and will publish this position on the Euraccess website. So that's the end of my presentation. And I hope you will be interested in the program and you will start applying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you very much for this very holistic overview of what is existing and also a glimpse into the future program. So I think for participants here, it's particularly important to know that all these actions that were now briefly presented will continue in the future. So don't be worried, this is not the end of it. We have received a few questions, but I think actually all of them will be answered later on during the presentation of our colleague Sami Betish, because we have one on where will we be doing research, what is required for an exchange program. I am a doctoral candidate and I want to get a grant for an internship. So these things will be answered actually not in the next presentation, but the one after by my colleague Sami Betish. So I'll propose that we just wait for him to take the floor and then he will reply to that. We also have one question on Erasmus+, which I think we can answer as well at the end of today's webinar, because we will have a little presentation on Erasmus+ as well. For now, I would like to I was told that Mr. Irgashev managed to connect. So if he's here with us, I would like him to unmute himself and to take the floor to give us some welcoming remarks from the ministry. So Mr. Irgashev, if you are with us, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and for those who are in Uzbekistan, this is afternoon already. Dear Madam Claire Morel, European partners, dear Madam Abdurrahmanova, and all Erasmus Plus office in Tashkent. I hope you all hear me. Dear friends participating from different universities and institutes of Uzbekistan, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all at this webinar, and I would like to thank the organizers of this webinar for this opportunity to get first-hand information about Maria Sklodowska-Curie and Horizon programs. At the very outset, let me briefly touch upon the main aspects of our reforms in the field of higher education, probably mainly for the benefit of our European partners. The most important issues that have been the matter of our concern during the last 15, 20 years were the quality of education, which often did not meet the requirements of the labor market and were not up to international standards. For the second, enrollment of young people with higher educational institutions in Uzbekistan had been at a very low level to compare with the huge number of those who used to finish secondary educational institutions wishing to continue their education at the next stage. To solve these problems, we have worked hard, and as a result, 41 higher education institutions have newly been established in our republic over the past 3 years. 27 branches of local universities have been opened in various cities all over the country. In addition to these, 14 foreign universities have started their operations in Uzbekistan. Thus, the total number of higher education institutes have reached 120 to compare with 60 in 2017. Besides, we have started cooperating with foreign universities in the framework of joint educational programs. As a result, at present, the enrollment of young people with higher education opportunities in Uzbekistan has increased from 9% in 2017 to 20%. For the next year, this figure will reach 25% and more. Over the years, the universities of Uzbekistan have participated in hundreds of Tempus and Erasmus Plus joint European projects in cooperation with European universities. And it is very well known to all of us. But at the same time, there were very few in the framework of Horizon and Maria Sklodowska-Curie or other European research programs. At the same time, science and research have always been as much important for the universities in Uzbekistan as like quality of education, improving of academic process, in-service training of faculty staff, student exchange, and others. Joint research projects, publications in research journals, science and industry integration are the main aspects of everyday life of the universities in Uzbekistan. The Innovation Ministry of Uzbekistan has especially been established to support science and research in this country, and the universities and institutes always being at the forefront of this process. This is the reason why this webinar is so important, and I call upon all universities and institutions in Uzbekistan taking part in this webinar to use this opportunity for getting as much information as possible. And I ask them all to disseminate this information among the doctorate students, researchers, and all interested fellows. All science and research departments at the universities should have detailed information on the terms and conditions of Maria Sklodowska-Curie and Horizon programs, including the fields of studies, timing, and other aspects. Hopefully, your active participation in these programs will give a chance to raise the level of your rating place in our national rating system. On the part of the Ministry of Higher Education, I could assure you that the ministry stands ready to support the higher education institutions of Uzbekistan in their efforts to participate in the European research projects in Maria Sklodowska-Curie and Horizon programs. We shall certainly be ready to distribute the materials of this webinar if they are provided to us in writing. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you all very fruitful work at this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Igashev, for these very positive welcoming remarks. I think that the progress made by Uzbekistan and Uzbek higher education institutions in terms of internationalization over the past years is impressive, and I hope it continues like that. Thank you as well for taking the initiative of organizing and hosting this webinar. I think it is a great opportunity for young students and researchers in Uzbekistan to find out what is out there. And given the high interest of this event, I mean, we have over 200 registrations, although we have only 100 spaces available. I think this shows that it is very much appreciated. I will continue now to the next speaker. So our next presentation, Mr. Richard Berger, who has been working in international research cooperation for more than 20 years. So he's very knowledgeable, and he has been with the European Commission and more specifically the Directorate General for Research and Innovation since 2002. But more interestingly, he has also worked in the EU delegation to the Russian Federation for more than 10 years. So he's very well aware. And nowadays he is a policy officer in the Directorate General in the Directorate for International Cooperation. He will now introduce us to the program that Claire Morel briefly mentioned, so Horizon 2020, but also the Future Horizon Europe program more generally, not only on the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, which will then be the next presentation. So Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marlene, for the introduction, and more importantly, thank you very much for having invited me to be with you today during this webinar. I'd also like to welcome everybody, and in addition to the nice introduction which my colleague Claire already made, I'd like to say that I worked in Uzbekistan many years ago, more than 20 years ago. I visited Uzbekistan on frequent occasions, and I have very good friends in Tashkent, so it's a particular pleasure for me to be with you today and to tell you a little bit about the European Union Framework Program for Research and Innovation, in which the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions are embedded, of which they are a part. I will now switch over to the presentation which I've prepared. And I hope that everybody can see my screen now.
Yes, we see you and we hear you.
Thank you. The presentation which I'm going to make is not going to be very long. It is an overview presentation about the so-called European Union Framework Program for Research and Innovation, the current program Horizon 2020, which is actually in its last year today, in 2020, and the new program which will be starting up at the beginning of next year. They're called Framework Program. Partly for the reason that they are a pan-European program, which is being implemented at the level of the European Union as such. So they are above the individual national programs for research and innovation or higher education which exist and which are implemented by the member states of the European Union. And I will come back to this pan-European element, which is a very important feature of the programs a little bit later. These so-called framework programs have existed for a long time now, since 1984, as a matter of fact. And this slide basically shows you, is an illustration of the fact that the framework programs of the European Union for Research and Innovation, they used to be called Framework Programs for Research and Technological Development in the past, have increasingly and steadily and visibly become more important. As a reflection of the increasing importance which the European Union gives to the development of research, modern technologies, and innovation for the European Union as a whole. And that is a trend which is certainly going to continue as we enter the new program period, and not least because of the unfortunate coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic with which we're all confronted across the world. And I think we all understand that if there is one thing which the coronavirus pandemic has shown, then it is the utmost importance of up-to-date scientific research in this case, medical research, up-to-date, the existence of up-to-date factual evidence bases upon which policy and policy making can be based. So this trend of recognizing the important role of scientific research, innovation and technological development is certainly something which will be reflected in the future programs and policy initiatives of the European Union. Now, a few words about the current program, Horizon 2020. It's a 7-year program which had an overall budget of almost 80 billion euros. The program is implemented through multi-annual work programs. There were two-year work programs in the beginning of the program, concluded by a 3-year work program at the end of it. One of the most important features of the opportunities for cooperation in research and innovation and technological development is the fact, as I already said, that it's a pan-European program, that it is a program that is additional to, it does not replace, it is additional to, it complements the research and innovation programs which continue to exist at the level of the individual EU member states. Now, this means that most of the activities that can be supported by the European Union as part of this program have to involve more than just one team of researchers from one individual member state. Usually, not in all cases, but in most cases, the activities that can be supported by the European Union through this program are implemented by a consortium of organizations, institutions, companies, individual researchers that come together to conduct research or to engage in technological development. I'll come back to that in a minute. The program in its totality tries to encompass what's been traditionally called sort of the entire innovation chain, from research to retail, meaning from basic research all the way up to commercially oriented research, pre-market research and innovation. It tries to be a policy and program response to the many challenges which our societies in the European Union, but also countries around the world and societies in other parts of the world are faced with, which relates to the health of our citizens, obviously one of the most topical challenges at the moment, which relates to the sustainability of our way of life, of our economies, to the need to work towards cleaner energy resources. The program tries to address questions which are related, which result from our forms of transport, especially in highly densely populated areas, such as most parts of the European Union in fact are. The program tries to provide research-based policy responses to the challenges related to climate change, to food security and food safety, and many others in this spirit. The most important feature about the program is it is actually the single largest publicly funded research program in the world, which is open to companies, researchers, universities, and institutes from around the world. So not only open for participation to entities, companies, institutes, universities that are based in the EU member states, which ultimately funds the program, but also to everybody around the world. Now, that really makes it a unique program. As a matter of fact, the program is unique not only in that it is open, highly open for participation to companies and entities around the world, but it also offers unprecedented possibilities to receive financial support from the European Union, even for institutions and companies and researchers that are not based within the European Union. And I'll come back to that in a minute. The program is implemented based on annual calls for proposals, which are being pre-published as part of the framework program, the Horizon 2020 work programs. They are being published on the websites of the European Commission well in advance, so that researchers or other interested entities can familiarize themselves with the upcoming opportunities in advance and can start to form consortia for the elaboration of proposals which are to be submitted. There is a very transparent, very well-working evaluation procedure for the submitted proposals. It's important to keep in mind that it is not only the scientific and research aspects themselves which are being evaluated as part of the assessment process of submitted project applications, but also their expected impact and the implementation and management aspects. As I already said, most of the activities that are being funded as part of the programs, albeit not all of them, are being implemented by consortia of organizations based in different countries. So the projects are relatively complex, which means that the management and implementation aspects are very important for the sustainability and the chances of success for the projects to reach their intended aims. So that's one of the explanations why these aspects also form an important part of the evaluation process. The general sort of attempt at describing the program is reflected in these slides. The Horizon 2020 program consists essentially of a three-pillar structure: excellent science, industrial leadership, and societal challenges. The excellent science part was already mentioned by my colleague Claire Morel. It is the part which contains the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, which are the focus of today's webinar. Perhaps to summarize this first pillar of the program, what is one of the features of this pillar is that in almost all cases there are no thematic restrictions as to the kind of research or technology development activities that can be proposed in response to the calls that are being published under this first pillar, so-called excellent science. The first pillar is primarily dedicated to the promotion of fundamental, basic, but also visionary research as part of the European Research Council, which would be an interesting topic for a separate seminar at some point in the future, to the mobility and training of researchers as part of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, and also to the to providing support to the development of research infrastructures, large-scale research facilities, as they're sometimes called, in the European Union and beyond. Pillars 2 and 3, industrial leadership and societal challenges. Industrial leadership is mostly dedicated to the development of what one would call horizontal technologies, technologies which in practice or potentially underlie different areas of industry, such as information communication technologies, nanotechnologies, new materials, combination of biological and non-biological technologies, manufacturing processes. And it also contains programs to develop innovation activities in small and medium-sized enterprises. And the last and third pillar, societal challenges, is dedicated to providing support to research and technology development and innovation-oriented actions to respond to the great challenges which I already mentioned, which European societies and countries around the world are faced with. An important feature, and this is significant in the context of today's webinar, is the openness of the program, and not only the openness for participation of organizations, including universities, but also commercial organizations, that is enterprises and business and industry from outside the European Union, but also the unprecedented nature of being able to receive financial support, that is funding from the European Union for the participation. With the exception, Obviously, the countries, the member states of the European Union, which ultimately fund the program, are eligible to receive support from the European Union for their participation in projects. There is a number of other countries, so-called associated countries, which are also able to receive funding support from the European Union for their participation in the program, because they themselves make a GDP-based financial contribution to the program as such. But importantly, with the exception of what would, one could, for lack of a better word, call the really rich countries, the big and rich countries such as the United States and Canada and Australia, China, Russia, India, Mexico, and a number of others, Japan. Most other countries in the world, can also count on more or less automatic funding for their participation in research and innovation actions under Horizon 2020. In particular, entities from Uzbekistan. So universities, research institutes, but also commercial companies, in line with the general funding rules of Horizon 2020, can be funded by the European Union essentially on the same terms and conditions as entities from the European Union. Now that's a very important and attractive feature of the program, and a unique feature of the program. You will have paid attention to the fact that we're in the last year, in the final year of the implementation of the program, 2020. So most of the calls for proposals, most of the opportunities to submit project proposals, project applications have already passed. Much of the budget of the program has already been allocated. However, there are still some calls for proposals open, and I've highlighted just one example, which might be of particular interest to organizations in Uzbekistan. It is a call which has a submission deadline of the 1st of September. The call was already presented as part of the Water Science and Technology Science Diplomacy Network, which works with the countries of Central Asia, including Uzbekistan. But I'd like to draw attention to this call once more, because it is a real opportunity that is currently open. The title of the call is Demonstration of Innovative and Sustainable Hydropower Solutions Targeting Unexplored Small-Scale Hydropower Potential in Central Asia. The expectation is that one project will be funded with a budget of about up to 10 million euros. And the call looks to fund a project that will demonstrate innovative hydropower equipment to exploit unexplored small-scale hydropower potential in Central Asia, up to 10 megawatt installed capacity by means of sustainable and cost-effective small-scale hydropower solutions. The expectation is that a demonstration activity, that is a pilot, a physical pilot, nuts and bolts pilot, will be implemented in one of the Central Asian countries with the participation of local partners. And the consortium requirement, the minimum consortium requirement, in addition to the minimum number of participants from the European Union, which will be 3, all countries that are associated with the framework program, there must be at least 2 legal entities established in one of the 5 Central Asian countries. So that is a particularly attractive possibility currently open in Horizon 2020, especially for entities from Uzbekistan. We've tried to summarize what the what some of the main attractions are for participating in initiatives, activities and projects that are funded by the framework program of the European Union. And what has emerged is that one of the most attractive features is exactly the multinationality, the multilateral character of the initiatives that are being funded through the framework program. And we've seen that often it is individual researchers, universities, but also companies, sometimes small companies, small and medium-sized enterprises, which based on the bilateral activities, which they have already had with partners in the European Union, thanks to very often, as a matter of fact, participation in Erasmus Plus projects, or thanks to participation in bilateral programs that are funded, say, by Germany or France or Finland or Italy, then take the next step and lift themselves into multilateral activities, which allows them to internationalize their outreach, commercial or in scientific terms, but also to become a part of vibrant, dynamic international research and innovation networks. Now, a few words about the next program, the next 7-year multi-annual research and innovation program, which will start up in the beginning of 2021. The program has not yet finally adopted. The main outlines of the program have already been agreed, but the formal decisions, a number of formal decisions about the program are still pending. So necessarily what I can say is preliminary and provides only a general orientation. I think the most important thing to be kept in mind about the next EU research and innovation program, Horizon Europe, is that the most significant, the most interesting features of the multi-annual framework program from a perspective of somebody in Uzbekistan will mostly remain unchanged. That is, the general openness of the program will be maintained for participation by entities from around the world, that is outside, including outside of the European Union, and the possibility to receive funding support for participation in most of the actions that are going to be supported by Horizon Europe, including by entities from Uzbekistan, will be maintained. The Boris-Skłodowska-Curie actions will continue in the new program. The consortium-based cooperative research and innovation actions, which will address global challenges and the development of key enabling, that is horizontal underlying industrial technologies, will also be maintained. So the basic and very attractive, I should say, participation possibilities for research entities from Uzbekistan will continue into the next program. We have listed a number of links. I understand that the information materials will be made available to you following the webinar, where you can receive more information. I would also like to draw attention to the active national contact point for European research and higher education programs that is active in Uzbekistan, the NCP, who has been always very helpful to provide targeted information. With this, I thank you for your attention, and I don't know how the moderator will handle it. If there are any particular questions now about the general character of the framework program Horizon 2020 or the upcoming one Horizon Europe, I would be available for a few minutes to try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much for this very good overview of Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. I know you're busy and you have to leave very soon. So indeed, I mean, I have checked the chat. It doesn't seem like there are any general questions on Horizon 20 or Horizon Europe right now. Otherwise, I encourage participants to drop their questions to Richard now before he leaves us for other horizons. I would also encourage participants to apply to the call of particular interest to Central Asia that he presented. The slides will be shared after the event. I received this question in the chat. So yes, all the PowerPoint presentations will be shared. So you will have a chance to have a look at them more in detail and really to click through the different links. I know it can be quite a lot of information, maybe a little bit overwhelming if this is the first time you hear about these programs. I don't see any other questions in the chat for Richard. So Richard, thank you very much for having been with us today. And and goodbye. See you soon.
Thank you very much, and good luck to everybody. Kind regards to everybody in Tashkent and in Uzbekistan. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Great. So with this, we can go to our next speaker, Mr. Sami Betish, who is a colleague of mine. He is the project officer for the Marie Sklodowska-Curie Action's individual fellowships action at the Research Executive Agency. He is also the co-coordinator for widening fellowships. This might all sound obscure and technical to you, but he will now present very much in detail how you can apply, what is the application process, which countries, where to. So now I've seen a number of questions in the chat on, what is the application process, when is the grant going to be awarded, where will I be doing my research, what is required for an exchange program, etc. So he should hopefully be able to reply to most of these questions. Sami, the floor is yours. If I could ask you to be quick, because we're running a little bit behind schedule. So I know we have a lot of slides and it's very interesting, but yeah, try to be not too long, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Marlene, for this introduction. I will try to shorten a bit my presentation, or to be as quick as possible while trying to be comprehensive. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very honored to take part to this and to have the opportunity to present the last call of the individual fellowships under Horizon 2020. So you will also hear some additional information from the testimonials afterwards, that hopefully will be complementary to this presentation. So I will not go into the details of the different actions that have been presented already by my colleague Claire Morel. I will focus on the individual fellowships, which support the career development of one experienced researchers. And let's start with the main features of what is a typical individual fellowship project. So as it stands by its name, the projects are centered around one individual, this individual being a researcher that is experienced. And what do we mean by experience is the researchers a PhD at the time of the application, but that can demonstrate 4 years of experience in research. The researchers should be experienced, and they can be of any nationality. So it is open to any researchers from all parts of the world, with some additional conditions for the reintegration and the global fellowships, on which I will come back later on. So the projects are focused on one individual and experienced researchers of any nationality. And the projects are actually led by a host institution. This host institution should be located in Europe, in one of the 27 member states, in UK, or in one of the associated countries that have signed an association agreement in order to participate to Horizon 2020 program. You can see the list of those countries here. In case organizations from Uzbekistan would be interested to participate, they can participate not as beneficiary, but as partner organization under the global fellowships pillar of the IF code. And I will come back to that later on. So the host institution play a very important role, in the sense that this is the organization that will submit the proposal, sign the grant agreement with the European Research Agency, and that will implement the project. The institution can be from the academic sector or from the non-academic sector. We're not only promoting geographical mobility, but also intersectoral mobility. So we strongly encourage our fellows to undertake their fellowship in a non-academic institution, which can be any company, large corporation, SMEs, but also NGOs, museum, hospitals, regional or national government organization, or international organization. So a typical IF project is centered and focused around three main actors, as I said. One, experienced researchers that holds a PhD or that can demonstrate 4 years of experience and that can be of any nationality, with some restriction for reintegration and global fellowships. Then the second key actor is the host institution that has to be located in a member state in UK or in one of the associated countries that I've just mentioned. The host institution will be responsible for implementing the project, for signing the work contract with the researcher, and for providing and appointing a supervisor, who is the third key actor of the project. And the supervisor is usually a well-known scientist from the institution, well recognized, that will be there to guide, support, mentor, and supervise the researcher during the lifetime of the project. So, as it was said before, MSCA, Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, is a bottom-up program, meaning that we're not prescribing any specific scientific discipline. All projects are open to all scientific fields. We have divided all those disciplines into 8 scientific panels that you can see: chemistry, social science and humanities, economy, engineering, environmental sciences, life sciences, mathematics and physics. At the time of your application, you will be asked according to you, to which panel your proposal fits best. And this will also help us to identify the right experts to evaluate your proposal. So in terms of activities, the projects are really centered on research. It's training through research for one researchers. And there is also this requirement to have some training activities. It's not about only acquiring scientific knowledge, but also acquiring scientific skills, like using new techniques, new specific instruments or methodology, but also about acquiring more horizontal skills that can range from proposal writing to exploitation of results through entrepreneurship, management of intellectual property rights, or acquiring skills in terms of supervision of students, for instance. There is also this possibility to have some transfer of knowledge that is done through secondment in other institutions that have to be located in Europe. You have this possibility to spend some time, up to 6 months, in another institution in order to use a specific infrastructure or to deepen a collaboration with an academic colleague, or to go into a company to develop a prototype, for instance. And this is optional, and it can be up to 6 months and can be sequenced and done in blocks. We also expect the project to have some dissemination activities, dissemination towards the scientific community through the usual participation to conferences, by giving talks to present the result, by presenting posters, by writing articles in scientific publications, but also to disseminate the results toward non-scientific audience that can include, for instance, the organization of workshops with and for decision makers or public authorities, for instance, and also some outreach activities in order to promote scientific careers to the public at large, and that can include activities like participating in a science festival or visiting schools. In terms of financial contribution, the type of contribution that we provide is based on unit cost per month. So it's a forfait. We have 2 types of costs: those attached to the researcher on the left column, and those attached to the institution. So the costs linked to the researchers should be used exclusively for the benefit of the researchers, and it's composed of 3 types of allowances. You have first the living allowance that covers the salary of the researcher, the gross salary, and it also includes the contribution to the social security system, to the pension scheme, to health insurance. And it is the amount that you can see is 4,880 euros, and it is a standard amount that is adapted to the country where the fellowships takes place on the basis of a specific country coefficient. On top of this living allowance, the researcher will receive mobility allowance, which amounts to 600 euros. And for those researchers that have a family, that are married, that are engaged in a civil partnership, or that have children, they are also entitled to receive an extra 500 euros per month. Then we have the institutional costs with the research training and networking costs amounting to 800 euros per month. And this is there to cover the research expenses, which can include purchasing lab equipment, fees to participate to a conference, to training fees, but also fees linked to the publication in open access in scientific journals. And then we have the management and indirect costs that are due to the host institution of 650 euros, and that can be also used to top up on the salary of the researchers. So this was a quick overview about what is a typical individual fellowship project. So let's go now into the architecture of the last Horizon 2020 individual fellowship call for proposal. The call has opened on the 8th of April, so meaning since then you are able to prepare and submit your application. The call deadline is set on the 9th of September at 5 p.m. sharp. So afterwards, it will not be possible to submit any application. So it's really important that you anticipate as much as possible your submission. Once the proposals have been submitted, we in the Executive Research Agency, we will look into those proposals and we'll try to assign 3 experts to each of the proposals and in order to proceed with the evaluation. That will last until December, and all applicants will be informed at the beginning of February about the results of their applications. For those applicants that were selected for funding, we will start at the same time the grant preparation, and the project will be able to start from the 1st of March 2021 up to the 1st of September 2022. This is to give you an overview about the topics and budgets for the individual fellowship call, which is based on 2 pillars, the European fellowship on the left side of the slide and the global fellowship in green, for which we have a budget of 55 million this year. And the global fellowship is there to support the mobility in 2 steps. One, outgoing phase in a third country outside Europe, outside the member state, outside UK or an associated country, and a mandatory return phase in Europe. Then we have the second pillar, the European fellowships, which is divided in 4 types of actions. We have the European fellowship standard action, which attracts the biggest amount of proposals. And that is there to support the mobility within Europe, but also from outside Europe to Europe. We have the possibility, we have also a second type of action, that is the career restart panel, that is there to support those researchers that have a career break in research because of family reasons, or on maternity leave, for instance, or health issue, long unemployment period, or the researchers might have been working outside research, but those researchers would like to resume their career in research, and this is why we have this specific action. Then we have a third type of action under the European Fellowship, which is the reintegration panel, where we would like to attract back those researchers that left Europe, but would like to come back in order to perform their research in the European research area. And for those 3 type of actions, we have a total budget of 263 million euros. And then we have a 4th type of action under the European Fellowship pillar, which is the little blue box, which is the Society and Enterprise panel, where we will provide support to those fellows that will undertake their fellowship in a non-academic institution, and for which we have a dedicated budget of 10 million euros. Overall, we have a budget of 328 million euro for this last call under Horizon 2020, and an extra 7 million euro for widening fellowship, on which I will come back later on. So all those actions that I've just mentioned, the standards, European Fellowship, Career Restart, Reintegration, Society and Enterprise, and Global Fellowship, they are all subject to eligibility conditions. And there are always a mobility rule. It's a program that supports mobility. The mobility rule might vary from one action to the other. I can point you to where to find the information or reply to some question later on. The program is open to researchers from any nationality, from all parts of the world. There is an additional condition for the reintegration and the global fellowship for those researchers that are nationals from third country. They are still able to participate, but they will have to demonstrate that they have been long-term resident, meaning 5 consecutive years in Europe, in one of the member states, in UK or one of the associated countries. Then we have additional eligibility conditions. For the society and enterprise, the host institution should be non-academic. And for the career restart panel, the researchers should explain and demonstrate a career break before applying. So to summarize, the European Fellowship is there to support mobility within Europe or from outside Europe to Europe, and the duration of the project can last from 1 to 2 years and up to 3 years for the career restart panel. For the global fellowship, those projects can be done, are done in 2 stages. One outgoing phase in a third country outside Europe, which can be in Uzbekistan, for instance, and a return phase, mandatory, in a host institution that is located in Europe. In that case, it's also important to mention that the beneficiary, the one that will sign the grant agreement with us, will be the institution located in Europe, but the host institution that is located in the third country will be considered as partner organization and should be identified in the proposal. A word on widening fellowship, which is a specific scheme that is there to support those researchers that have submitted a proposal under the European Fellowships pillar with a host institution that is located in a European country. You can see the list here, or associated to the program, that have less intensive research performance. And the idea is really to stimulate the mobility towards those countries. So those researchers that have submitted proposal with one host institution located in these countries, but failed to be funded under the main IF call, then we will have an extra 7 million budget that will allow us to fund an extra approximately 45 projects. So there is no need to prepare an extra application. In case you're eligible, you will have a box that you will just need to tick, and in case you forget to tick, you will have plenty of warning asking you if you to make sure that you will go for this extra chance of being funded. A word now on submission and evaluation. I had a few stats, I had a slide that has disappeared on statistics. Maybe to tell you that we receive on average 10,000 proposals, well, a bit less, but we're able to fund last year approximately 1,500 projects. 2/3 of those projects are funded under the European standard. And then we have a success rate at the core level that is at 15%, and then range from 13% from the European fellowship standard up to 27% for the society and enterprise action. A word on submission. So the submission is done online. And the proposal is, the application form is composed of 2 parts. part A, where you have to encode online all the data that we need, meaning the data that your personal data, the data related to the host institution, and this is where also you will have to provide information in order for us to check if you are eligible to the action to which you apply. And then you have a second part in your application, which is the part B, which constitutes the core actually of your application. This is where you describe your action. The part B is articulated against the award criteria, and it should be maximum 10 pages. It's really important to respect this limit of 10 pages, because any additional page will not be accessible, and all the experts evaluator will not be able to read those extra pages. And there's no need to put a cover page or a table of contents. In this part B, you will also have to annex some information on how you intend to deal with ethics during your project. You will also have to attach your CV, information on the host institution, as well as for those who intend to apply to the global fellowships, you will have to provide a letter of commitment from the host institution that is located in the third country. So your proposal will be assessed against 3 criteria and different sub-criteria that you can see here. Those criteria are excellence, impact, and implementation. There is a weighting in terms of score. Excellence accounts for 50% of the score, impact 30%, and implementation for 20%. So all your proposal will be assigned for evaluation to 3 independent experts that will reach a consensus on the comments on your proposal and consensus on the score. And at the end, this is the score that will determine the position of your proposal in the ranking list, and ultimately whether your proposal will be selected for funding or not. If there is one slide that you should remember in case you would like to apply, it's that one that points you towards the guide for applicants. That is the documents that guide you in your application process, and this is where you will find all the detailed information about eligibility conditions, about how to fill in the application form, and as well as some extra information on how your proposal will be evaluated. I will be very quick on MSCA co-fund action that has been touched upon by my colleagues before. So why do we have a slide on it? It's because, as mentioned by Claire, we provide support by topping up on national, regional, or international programs of mobility for doctorates and postdoctorates position. And you can have access, usually the projects are from 10 to 50 positions open, and you can consult and check those positions on your access, and you had a very nice and clear demonstration by my colleague Valerio. So I thank you for your attention. I stop here. I wish you good luck in case you would like to apply, and I'm ready to take any question afterwards during the question and answer session.
Thank you, Sami. Thank you for this very good and short, I'm impressed, overview with a lot of information. If I can just sum up for participants, because this is important. So the individual fellowship call is open now until 9 of September. It is for experienced researchers, meaning if you already have a PhD or 4 years of experience, you can apply. You have to apply with a host institution, so you don't apply on your own directly. The grant, if you are selected, will be awarded around early February, and then your activity, your research activity would start next year in March for 1 or 2 years. I hope I summed it up well. So yes, because we had some questions in the chat on who can apply to individual fellowships. So this is for experienced researchers. I think a lot of you are interested to know what can be done for early stage researchers. I think now, I mean, we will answer to this in the Q&A session, but also now I'm very happy to announce that actually we have 2 alumni with us today. So we have 2 people who have done or received an MSCA fellowship and who will talk about their experience. So hopefully I think they will be able to share their experience and to answer most of the basic questions you might have. So we have Mr. Rustam Udinboyev, who is a former MSCA fellow at the University of Helsinki, and then we also have Ms. Gulsim Kulcharova, who also received the Marie Curie Fellowship under a PhD program from the University College London in the UK. And she is also the chair of a newly founded Marie Curie Alumni Association for Central Asia. So I believe that these 2 should be really able to give you a little bit more hands-on experience or details on how to apply, what to do, what not to do, and how it boosted their careers. And after their presentation, we'll go to the Q&A, and there we will go through the questions that might not have been answered yet. And yeah. So Rustam and Gulsim, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marlene. Let me share some PowerPoint. Okay, yes, this one. Yes, is it visible to everyone?
Yes, we can see it, thanks.
Yes, hello everybody, and I think it's good to share my experience, and I'm happy to talk about my background. I was Marie Skłodowska-Curie Fellow at the University of Helsinki, and I finished my Marie Curie Fellowship last year, December. So I am one of the fresh graduates of the program. If I talk about my experience, I finished my PhD in 2017 at Lund University in the field of sociology of law. And after finishing my PhD, I had different options in front of me. And I was postdoc fellow at Cambridge University, Copenhagen University, for some time at Helsinki University, a few months. And so I was more or less exploring the world, academic, work. And then I had a plan to more or less consolidate my research, because you need some time after PhD, to build your academic career. And in job market, especially in academia after your PhD, it's very tough. And then you need to publish a lot. So then I started exploring this Marie Curie Fellowship. And in 2016, 17, when I was visiting a postdoc fellow at the University of Helsinki, I established connection with the host institute and offered myself, more or less, I would say that, look, I have this CV and I am here already 2-3 months as a visiting fellow, and I would like to be a Marie Curie fellow. If you host me, I can bring money from European Commission. Then you get my publications, and you have one postdoc fellow in your institute. So this is how you advertise yourself. Otherwise, nobody will contact you, and you have to take the initiative yourself if you want to get a Marie Curie Fellowship. And then the key factor in my application was academic supervisor that I found at the University of Helsinki, and he was interested in my research, and then he decided to support also my application, because it's not just about your research proposal. You must have a strong interest from your host university, because the Marie Curie application has 2 parts. One part is a research proposal, another part is information from your host institute, and they need to provide lots of details. So it's very difficult application. If you don't have enough support from your host institute, it's unlikely that you will get Marie Curie Fellowship. So my advice to those of you who are considering to apply is to find a good host university and good academic supervisor. This is very crucial to the success of your application. Yes, so I was there 2 years, and then these 2 years gave me excellent possibility to consolidate my position in academia here in Europe. So I got a very generous salary, support for my family, and I also got mobility funding and networking money, so which allowed me to do field work in Moscow, you know, among Uzbek migrant workers, you know, doing construction work. So I got, you know, I had all the possibilities to collect good research material and publish during these 2 years of Marie Curie Fellowship. And as a result of, you know, I finished last year my Marie Curie Fellowship, and after finishing my fellowship, you know, it was a big career boost to me, career advancement. As a result of my Marie Curie Fellowship, I became associate professor now at Lund University, and at the same time, my host university, you know, where I did my Marie Curie Fellowship, they also tried to keep me. So, and now I have 2 jobs. At the same time, I work at Lund University in Sweden as associate professor. Also, I work as a senior researcher at the University of Helsinki also. So I am commuting these days between Helsinki and Lund. So that's my, you know, I would say this would not have been possible without Marie Curie funding, which allowed me to publish, for example, this book is a prestigious American university press, is the University of California Press, and this was one of the you know, direct outcomes of my Marie Curie Fellowship. And at the same time, I have, you know, this Marie Curie Fellowship gave me more or less motivation, inspiration to get more EU funding. And now from Lund University, I'm coordinating this big Marie Curie RISE, Research and Innovation Staff Exchange project, which is called Central Asian Law, Legal Cultures and Business Environments in Central Asia. So this is €1 million project, and I'm now coordinating this big project, which involves 6 universities in Europe: Lund University, Zurich University, Riga School of Law, Latvia University, Marmara University, and Charles University. At the same time, I still keep my ties with Central Asia, and I have 6 partners from Uzbekistan in my new project: Academy of General Prosecutor's Office in Tashkent, Westminster University. Sorry? Did you say something?
No, I think somebody unmuted his microphone. Just keep going.
University in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan. So this is a big project I'm currently managing from Lund University. So I think my advice to you, it's not mission impossible. I mean, you can apply and get Marie Curie funding, and your nationality doesn't matter. It's your research proposal and support from your host university that decides the outcome of your effort. So I think I'm very thankful to European Commission for providing this funding and enabling me to boost my career, also have wider societal impact through this new project I'm coordinating now. Yeah, thank you. This is briefly about me.
Thank you, Rustam. Thank you. That is very impressive. I think that what it's interesting to see that what Rustam did is that he did himself apply for a fellowship, an individual fellowship, which he got. and that he is now actually coordinating another MSCA project, so under the RISE action, which is a cooperation project for staff exchanges mostly. 2 points, very important: your nationality doesn't matter, it's your proposal and the host institution that is going to apply for you. So these are 2 of the things you should take home with you. Please don't hesitate to put more questions in the chat if you have them. And now we'll go over to Gulsen, please, if you can give us your experience.
Thank you very much, Marlene, for the introduction. Thanks for Rustamjon for passing the floor. And now I'd like to share my screen. Can you see? And can you hear me? Okay, yes. Great. So today I'd like to talk about my PhD path with Marie Curie Fellowship. As previously described, I got my PhD from University College London, but before I obtained the fellowship, I asked myself why PhD, and I encourage everyone who's thinking about going for a PhD also to have an answer to this question, because PhD is not an always straightforward and easy path. In my case, I was already in academic environment after my master's degree, and I knew that I would like to continue in academic career. And that is why I searched for positions in Europe for PhD positions, and I applied for initial training network called EuroMBR, European Microbioreactors. And so what is initial training networks, ITN, is that when several universities headed by researchers, prominent scientists, they come together and apply for a grant to European Commission. And once they obtain it, they are able to support several early stage researchers, such as me. I was one of the ESRs, early stage researchers, and postdocs, which are called experienced researchers, as previously described. In our ITN, there were 11 ESRs, so PhD students, and ITN comprised of several European universities, University of Oulu in Finland, UCL, Technical University of Denmark, Technical University of Braunschweig in Germany, University of Ljubljana, and also several industry partners, so companies which are in Europe working specifically on this theme that's called microfluidic devices, so such as Micronic, Chip Shop, IX Factory, and some other companies as well. So I was funded by this ITN, and our 11 experienced ESRs, early stage researchers, they were numbered. So I was ESR number 4, and I did it in University College London during 3 years' time. And my PhD involved, although living in London was good and it allowed good experience during my PhD, the PhD itself requires a lot of work. So the key thing is in doing any PhD, I believe, is developing and driving your research. And oftentimes you have to do it independently, of course, with the support of your supervisors and your mentors. And this is this was the topic of my project at the time, mimicking human drug metabolic reactions using microfluidic platforms. And my PhD was experimental based, so it required a lot of work in the lab on everyday basis, sometimes on weekends, and oftentimes everyday work. So, so one of the advices is actually to keep constant and being tenacious when some things may not work. And if your research is experimental based, you have to keep on it and keep trying and working out independently sometimes. And another advantage, another aspect that I'd like to mention specifically for Marie Curie Fellowship funded PhDs is that the scholarship allows any ESR, so early stage researcher, to go for secondment. So secondments are 6 months long when you go to your partner institution, or it could be a company if it's part of your ITN program, this consortium. And it allows for PhD students to do their work at your partner collaborators institution. So in my case, I spent it in University of Oulu, which is in Finland. It was called, it was in the city called Kajaani. So I ended up going there twice during my PhD, during the 3 years of my time in London. And it allowed me to open a new field for my PhD work, which I worked on biosensors, and allowed me to learn a lot of techniques from the partner institution and also establish collaborative partnerships with our collaborators, which took off later on as well after I returned to UCL, to my host institution. Another tip that I would like to say is that, of course, any kind of research, whether it's experimental or theory-based, exposure of your work is very important. And the nice thing about Marie Curie Fellowship funded PhDs is that it allows generous support for mobility support and for participation in conferences and meetings. So one of the ways that I was able to get exposure and practice at the beginning of my PhD years was the ITN meetings. So any kind of ITN consortium, they allow for meetings at your partner institutions. So 11 of us and the postdocs as well would gather several times per year at our at our partner institutions, and in total there were 8 workshops, and these meetings allowed us to present in front of each other and also go through trainings and go through some conferences, mini conferences that were hosted at the same time at those institutions too. And the second way, of course, the fellowship allows you to go for conferences and symposiums that are in your field. And it allows you to not limit yourself if you would like to get the exposure, to get your work disseminated. And of course, after you do the research and after you have enough exposure, and you come to towards the end of your PhD, and so that happened to me as well. And the final year after I finished my experimental work, lab work, the writing thesis stage starts, and the defense happened, which allowed me to, in the end, obtain the PhD degree. Overall, during the PhD, I was able to publish in high impact factor journals, and those meetings and those conferences allowed me to present my work in oral presentations and also have some poster awards throughout the PhD years too. So what happened after I obtained my PhD degree? Currently, I am a postdoctoral fellow, so I returned to Kazakhstan and I work in Nazarbayev University as a postdoc, and since last year. And currently, I was able to get my big grant so I am a principal investigator of a faculty development grant in our university. Which is about for $60,000 for 2020 and 2022. Also part of Advanced Functional Materials and Devices Group, which is a newly established group in our university. And in my spare time from research and from my job, I also spearheaded Marie Curie Alumni Association. As Marlene just mentioned, it was newly founded, and we cover Central Asia, Asian countries. And a few words on Marie Curie Alumni Association. This is the website of Marie Curie Alumni Association, and we try to organize events for those who already graduated from Marie Curie funded fellowships, whether these are PhDs or postdocs, and also for those who are prospective Marie Curie alumni, prospective Marie Curie students or researchers who would like to go abroad, continue their education. So it is our hope to pass the experience, our knowledge that we're able to obtain during the fellowship to prospective researchers from Central Asia and beyond. And these are some examples that we had. We had a welcome event in May, just recently, and also just last month we had Marie Curie Fellowship Boost Your Career webinar, which was focused on individual fellowships. And using this opportunity, I would like to invite all of you to an upcoming event that will be in August 6th. So this event will cover PhD testimonials. So several members of our group will present and share their experiences with PhD experiences funded by Marie Curie Fellowship. So this is the registration link, and you can always contact us via email and find me via email or follow us on social media networks. And with that, I would like to say thank you for your attention and ask if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gulsum. I think this was very informative. Thank you as well for introducing the Marie Curie Alumni Association. I would encourage all participants to have a look at their website. They have gone through the whole process of applying, going abroad, coming back. So they really, I think they can help you through it, reply to your most common questions, etc. So please have a look at the Alumni website. Please also join Gulsum at her event on the 6th of August, because I think this is exactly the sort of event that you need, with lots of testimonials, people who will explain how they did it and what the impact was. I think Gulsum's experience is also important because she was an early stage researcher. Okay, so she was still a PhD candidate when she did her fellowship. I've seen in the questions that a lot of you are actually at that stage as well, or would be interested in becoming an early stage researcher. So this is what you have to do, what she just shared. I will go now through maybe the different questions we have received in the chat. Please don't hesitate to add more or to thank our speakers if you found them interesting. I don't know if Sami is also still here. I'll just go through the questions, maybe give some element of reply or ask the different speakers if they want to reply or complement. We did receive a question on where will we be doing the research. So I hope it is clear now that this could be anywhere in the world, in Europe or beyond. It depends what you apply for or what kind of position you apply to. So depending if you are an experienced researcher or an early stage researcher, yeah, it depends what's out there. So, but there's no geographic limitation, let's say. What is required for the exchange program? I think, well, hopefully this is a little bit more clear now. It again depends if you are already an experienced researcher or not. So if you want to do an individual fellowship, like Sami explained, you will need a PhD and you will need a host. If you are an early stage researcher, then like Gulsum, you will apply to what we call innovative training networks or doctoral programs. And there it depends on the positions available. Maybe Valerio, if you could once again share your screen and show us the Euraccess portal, because I think this is important. We presented it briefly at the beginning during Claire Morel's presentation, but maybe we show you again. If you want to do a PhD, this is where you can find advised positions, okay? So if you want to find a job, a PhD position, this is where you go look for it. Valerio?
Yes, I'm nearly there. So, okay, hope you can see the screen.
Yes, so you can just, I mean, people, if you don't know how to access it, just type Euraccess on Google, okay? It will be the first link that pops up.
Yeah, we can go.
Just show it from the start. So this is for people looking for a PhD position.
It's the first one with the ec.europa.eu. So always be aware that this is the only trustworthy site, the one with this dominion. So in the home page, you have, again, go to jobs and funding and apply, of course, search for job offers. So in this page, you can browse all the available offers and you can filter them. So let's say I'm an early stage researcher, so like I'm at the very beginning. So the first filter I want to apply is first stage researcher, because it allows me to go through all the offers for the early stage researchers. Then we can, of course, select the Marie Curie actions in order to just highlight the MSCA programs. So we have this one. So we start with the very first one. So I'm interested in this position within the Sense8 project. I click on read more and it redirects me into the page where there are more information. So like the type of contract, the job status, hours per week, the offer starting date, and so on. Also some description, of course, of the project and some contacts, useful contacts. So if I decide to apply, I click on where to apply and it will be shown like the essential information for the application. So the deadline and where to send the application. Of course, if we go back, we should have here what they request. So in order to send the application, we need a CV, degree, and master records to be sent to those contacts. So this is very straightforward.
Yes, thank you, Valerio. Okay, so I
and
think,
again, you also have the contact of the institute that is offering the position. So for more information, you can directly contact them.
okay, I think that's very clear. I hope also for participants. If not, drop us a line. So this is for early stage researchers. If you are more advanced, then please, after we send the presentations, you can have a look again at Sami Betish's presentation. There is a link in there as well, or you can simply type individual fellowships on Google and you will find more information there. I think that also probably answers the question of the Cardiff alumnus who wants to do a PhD in Europe and was wondering about the application process and also the impact of COVID. So as you have just seen, the application processes vary according to the positions. So the best is to look at the one that is interesting you and just to reach out to them to find out. We have had a couple of questions on Erasmus Plus partnerships, for example, with universities in Denmark, but it's the same for anywhere. So this depends on your university in Uzbekistan. So if your university in Uzbekistan has partnerships, you should go talk to your international relations office to find out, or you can drop a line to the National Erasmus Plus office, who is the one who has organized this event today. They have an overview of which universities in Uzbekistan have partnerships with universities in Europe. So they should be able to tell you whether yes or no there are available partnerships. I must say that Erasmus Plus is quite competitive. So usually, even if universities have partnerships, the amount of mobility, so the amount of scholarships that they have are usually quite low. And they are for students and staff. So it depends, they might be using it for their academic stuff or administrative stuff. But talk to your international relations office or talk to the National Erasmus Plus office in Uzbekistan. So Aziza and her colleagues are super, super helpful. Maybe at the end, Aziza, you can just put on your slide with your contact details so that people know where to reach out. We also had questions about internships. I have shared in the chat a link to a website which is called erasmusintern.org. org. Have a look. I think there could be something useful in there. Erasmus Plus, again, also funds internships, but there it depends if your university has or not a partnership with a European university. So these are the two. So either talk to your university or check on the website that I have shared in the chat. For the question, when is the grant awarded? Here again, it depends on the action, but for individual fellowships, if you apply now until September, the grant would be awarded in February next year for activities starting in March. So that's for individual fellowships, so advanced researchers. For doctoral or PhD for people, early stage researchers like Gulsim, here it depends. It depends where you apply to. Okay, so have a look at Euraxis, what Valerio just showed you, and see it depends on the different positions. What else we did? Okay, just for Erasmus partnerships again, or just study opportunities, or even research opportunities in Europe. We had the question for Denmark, but it's broader. We have a website that is called study-europe.net. So it's a Study in Europe portal, if you want. I would encourage you to have a look there, because actually, if you just want to go somewhere to Europe for study, sorry, okay, I was muted, but I'm back. So the Study in Europe portal, you can just have a look at the different countries, click through them, and it will give you scholarship opportunities, information about living expenses, how many universities there are in that country, how many students, you know, how to find accommodation, etc., etc. So it's the Study in Europe portal, which I think is a very good source of information if you're kind of considering going to Europe, but you don't really know where to start. So this website has really all the information. We had a question on the presentations. Will they be shared? Yes, they will be shared after the event. This way you also have all the different links. We had a question on 2 or 3 months exchange programs for researchers. So 2 or 3 months, if it's really like a short exchange program, it would be more under Erasmus Plus. So I replied to that in the chat as well. I think it's under international credit mobility, the action under Erasmus Plus. So here again, it depends on your university. If your university has an Erasmus Plus partnership with a university in Europe, then you should talk to them to see if they can send you for 2 or 3 months to Europe, because that would be possible for Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. Usually it is longer periods. So as Gulsim, for instance, just explained, her secondments, she had several, would be 6 months, where you go to the partner organizations. We had the question, okay, individual fellowships are for experienced researchers. What about those who are at the threshold of doing research? I think this we have replied to now. So that's the innovative training networks, where you can find the jobs published on the Euraccess portal. And then I think one of the last questions was, any obligations set by the EU for participants after the end of the program? I would say no, we don't have any obligations, but maybe Sami, if you want to come in here or on any of the other questions to complement or give additional information, that would be great.
Yes, on that one, we don't impose, the question is not too clear to me. We don't impose any condition of staying in Europe, if this is the question, after the end of the fellowship.
Maybe is there some reporting obligation, or so what does a fellow do after the end of the project?
So at the end of the project, the fellows should provide a final report about their project. They have 2 months to submit their reports at the end of the projects. And once we receive this report, we proceed to the payment to the host institution that is the beneficiary. The only obligation that I have in mind that remains afterwards is that any publication that is linked to the activities of the projects should be declared and reported in the portal and should acknowledge the European funding.
Okay, I think that's clear. So there's a reporting obligation, and yes, if you publish afterwards a link to that project, please acknowledge that you received EU funding. We have one more question on any age limitations for IF.
So there is no age limitation for IF. It's open to any researcher of any age, as long as the researcher has obtained his or her PhD, or that can demonstrate 4 years of experience. But this will change in the future. But for this call, the last one of Horizon 2020, there is no age limitation. And what will come in the future will be more scientific age limitation.
Okay, cool. I think that's clear. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Please, yes, for those interested more on Erasmus+, Aziza, who has been the one behind organizing the event today. Thank you very much, Aziza. She just posted the contact information of the National Erasmus Plus office in Uzbekistan. You have the website, you have the email, the phone number. I know Aziza and her staff, they're super, super helpful. Please don't hesitate to drop them an email or give them a phone call to find out a little bit about opportunities under Erasmus Plus. I know they're here to help and they do it very well. So please write down their contacts. And then if there are no more questions, I think we can close the webinar. I believe even on time, even though we had to squeeze the end a little bit. Yes, we had foreseen to stop at 1:30. So I'll just maybe start my video for the end, say bye. Thank you all. Thank you, Aziza and colleagues, for organizing this event. Thank you, participants, for taking 2 hours of your time this afternoon to listen to us. I hope you learned something. If you didn't, don't hesitate to send an email. We will share the material anyway, so you will have the different links, the presentations. Yes, and otherwise, if you're intending to apply, good luck. And maybe I will see you again in the future as one of our alumni from Uzbekistan. So have a lovely afternoon. Aziza, if you want to have some final words before we close the seminar.
I just wanted to thank everybody and the speakers for sharing their experience. And I think I've got a message from Mr. Ergashev that the seminar was really useful. And Marlene, thank you very much for your specific contribution as a moderator. It was a very quick reaction to the chat. And again, I hope this seminar will contribute to the enhancement of the Uzbekistan participation in Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Have a nice day.
Rahmat.